and welcome along to Transfer Talk. 6 days remain in the transfer window and we still don't know whether Alexander Isak will remain for the latest. Newcastle make their move meanwhile to find a replacement for Callum Wilson, but their bid for Jørgen Strand Larsen fails at the first attempt. Rasmus Højlund's exit at Manchester United is moving closer, with Napoli in pole position to sign him. And is Manuel Akanji a replacement for Mark Guéhi? Crystal Palace make an approach to sign the Man City defender. Very good afternoon to all of you at home, and of course once again to James Savundra and former Newcastle and Burnley midfielder Jeff Hendrick. You'll hear from them both in a moment, but only one place to start, and that is of course Alexander Isak. Let's go live to Newcastle and speak to our reporter Keith Downey, who's there for us. Morning, Keith. So what happened at Isak's house last night?
Oh, I think we'd all like to know the answer to that question, and look, we'll be endeavouring to find out how that meeting ended. But two of the club's directors, Jamie Rubin, who's been at the forefront of Newcastle's transfer business this summer, and also Jacobo Solis from the PIF, visited Alexander Isak yesterday in the build-up to kick-off. To discuss the situation, of course, that has surrounded him for the majority of the summer. As we know, Alexander Isak training away from the group. He refused to play against Liverpool last night, who, of course, as we know, are trying to sign him. Refused to play against Aston Villa in the season opener the week before that as well, and has been for the majority of the summer agitating to leave the football club. Now, it will be interesting to see what comes out of that meeting, whether it was a case of a last try from the PIF, the club's owners, to try and convince Alexander Isak to stay. I would suggest with the promise of a new contract, a pay rise, and the ability to maybe leave next summer, or was it a discussion to say, look, yes, you could actually move on to Liverpool, because as we know, they are still interested in signing the Newcastle striker. And of course, just to add intrigue and an extra mystique to the whole situation, of course, it was left with a 3-2 win thanks to that 100th minute winner. So there was a sting in the tail for Newcastle United last night. Will there be a sting in the tail with this Alexander Isak situation? I still don't think it's written in stone as to whether the Swedish striker will remain or leave. But of course, if he was to leave for Liverpool between now and Monday's deadline, it would be for a Premier League transfer record, and Newcastle working furiously in the background to try and line up a couple of replacements. But that has been the case, of course, for a number of weeks now.
Hard question to answer this, Keith, but how do you expect things to unfold then over the next 6 days?
Yeah, well, look, I think the best way to explain it is plates are spinning at the moment. That has been the case for some time. Look, we knew that Newcastle have tried to bring in a couple of replacements for Alexander Isak to allow him to move to Liverpool. They came so close for Benjamin Sesko, who opted for Manchester United. They came so close for Hugo Ekitike, who, of course, ironically scored here at St James's Park for Liverpool last night in that 3-2 win. But they're spinning plates, they're trying to bring in replacements. I still believe that if Newcastle manage to bring in 2 replacements, he will be allowed to go. But there is a proposal, but he did, after the match, Eddie Howe last night, essentially plead for a bit of clarity on this situation, because it's dragged on for so long and it's certainly overshadowed the build-up to tonight's match against Liverpool. So look, as we've been saying, trying to sign Yohan Wissa from Brentford. There is still hope that a deal can be struck there, but of course I've had 2 offers turned down. The first for £25 million last month, then the second just over a week ago for £40 million. I feel that's Newcastle's limit. It'll be interesting to see if the 2 clubs come back together to try and get a deal done, with Brentford actively in the background looking for a striker of their own. And the second is the news that we brought to you yesterday, that Newcastle had a £50 million offer to Wolves turned down for their striker Jorgen Strand Larsen. 50 million package, all up front, no add-ons. Turned down. Wolves say they want to keep a decent chance that Alexander Isak could leave between now and Monday's deadline. A lot can
Last night's game out of the way with that really hostile reception for Liverpool and rubbing salt into the wound by actually walking away with a dramatic 100th minute winner and all 3 points just would have satisfied Liverpool no end. But as you say, today letting the dust settle and assessing where things are and the club's hierarchy yesterday, you sense that Liverpool at the moment maybe just have to be a little bit patient. Maybe they will wait for encouragement before deciding their next move, and whether that next move involves there's only a few days left. There's a lot of potentials. There's a domino effect possible there if everything falls into place. But the bottom line is, it would appear from the Merseyside point of view that Newcastle are digging in their heels and trying everything they can to persuade Isak to stay. Eddie Howe saying last night as well that he wanted the players that really wanted to play at the club to stay there, that those were the type of players that he wanted. So you can sense that sort of desperation from the Newcastle end, especially with their injuries last night and their suspension that they picked up. So Liverpool at the moment, I think, content to play the waiting game and really waiting for information from that meeting. That would appear to be key.
Isak or bust for Liverpool now, or have they got other targets as well?
Well, if you look at the opening two results, the evidence of that suggests that, weirdly, scoring goals for Liverpool at the moment and wanting a top striker doesn't appear to be too much of a problem. They scored 4 against Bournemouth, they scored 3 last night, and in many ways they seem to have plenty of options up top. I think a lot of their supporters, if you ask them, will express great concern about
Sungutu Magasa will keep you posted if that gets over the line. Does sound like it could be happening soon. Right, let's get back to Isak then, Jeff. And from Newcastle's point of view,
it depends how last night's talks went with the ownership group. Time is ticking now. I feel like it's getting later and later, and for them to get people in to replace him, it's difficult. Like we said earlier, they haven't even replaced Wilson yet.
Yeah.
And then if they're going to lose Isak as well, it's a bit of a sticky situation for them, and with it dragging on for weeks and months, obviously the whole club want him to stay, and that seems to be the best decision for them. But I think ultimately it might come down to what was talked about yesterday.
yeah. Well, I wanted to come on to that. Actually, it's a bizarre situation, isn't it? A couple of co-owners going round to a player's house to try and convince, we presume, to try and convince him to stay. It might have been something else, but going round to his house. What can we read into that? Have you ever heard of that situation before with an owner going to a player's house?
No, I don't think I've heard